For many years, people from all walks of life have asked me how come I don't teach class. They tell me I have all this experience and knowledge to share with the world, and that I have this way with words that make people understand things in ways that many can't explain. Unfortunately, even though I always wanted to teach class, I was battling a little something called reality. I've been playing a game for about a decade called How the Hell Am I Gonna Pay to Survive in This Rat Race to Nowhere? And when I heard what the state of Florida was gonna pay me to teach class in the Miami metro area, I had to laugh and tell them I could make that working at a goddamn gas station. And so, like many people who stray away from their passions, I swayed towards the dollar. And in that pursuit, I truly learned what it's like to feel dead inside, to feel like I couldn't put up enough points on the imaginary scoreboard of digital ducats, to feel like you don't have a voice if you don't have dollars. You see, when I hung up my army greens, I had a fire inside me, a feeling that I could do anything. But after learning it's not about what you know, but who you know, I found out real fast I wasn't going to get very far in the world of Mr. Web CEO without an endless pipeline of investor vultures who revere to themselves as angels and sharks, like they're some greaser gangs from the 50s. I decided I'd subsidize my life getting involved with activities that could have put me in the slammer for many years. And after those activities dried up and everyone went their separate ways before jealous ones started telling stories to the hometown heroes in blue, I put all my eggs in the basket of a company that took my money to pay for free lunches for the next suckers they legally scam, and I was left with nothing but the burning stench of failure in my nostrils. I had to decide how I'd pay my death pledge to a den of vipers we call the banks. Work for crumbs on the docks, or go back to working in a cubicle smaller than the prison cell I've somehow avoided my entire life. Fortunately and unfortunately, I found a happy and miserable medium that allowed me to be out and about yet crammed in a car. For the last 10 years, I've been contracted to inspect houses for banks and mortgage lenders. The same predators and vipers I hate the most. And I drive around in a new used vehicle before they get destroyed by these roads for 8, 10, 12 hours a day during these last 10 years. Crawling through vacant homes covered in vermin excrement that imprints into my footwear, and corroded garbage and personal belongings from the prior hoarders who lived there piled from floor to the ceiling. We call these abandoned homes the bandos, and once the utilities are turned off, these structures are nothing more than erected graves, where only signs of life in these dumps is death in the form of black mold that feasts on the cheap drywall and lumber used to construct these overpriced dumps. And after a decade of being the best at running through these roads and through these homes, after a decade of listening to homeowners ask me where their money is after I finish their insurance inspection like I have it sitting in a bag in my closet, after a decade of people whining at me for delivering bank notices to them for being behind on their mortgage, listening to ghetto scumbags on welfare asking me if I'm a Fed and telling me about what happens to people who take pictures on their block, and white trash screaming at me about their precious property like it's the Garden of Eden, and how their shotgun is the flaming sword they use to shoot those who come to their door uninvited, I get told that being the best at what I do isn't as valuable to the company as an inexperienced inspector who's willing to work for $1 less per house than me. And while I sleep alone in cheap roach-infested hotels, covered in sheets scorched with cigarette holes, and bed bugs gnawing on my flesh, only to get up again and go through more dilapidated houses with fleas, fire ants, and every other insect you can think of nesting into my hairy arms and legs. I make a phone call to Cartagena, Colombia every night so I can see and speak to my wife and baby boy, while I wait here for a bunch of suits and skirts and U.S. immigration to wave their magic wand so they can come here to live with me. And when I see the tears swell up in my wife's eyes and in my baby boy's eyes because they feel so lonely without me, and they plead with me to come there right now and be next to them, I have to swallow every ounce of emotion inside of me and say, "Sorry, my loves, I can't be with you right now." Because Daddy has to run the roads through America's finest toilets while he works on earning his seventh and eighth herniated disc in his back so he can make just enough crumbs for us not to have a future that doesn't involve us camping under an overpass, all while making a company owned by a group of people near Cleveland, Ohio, who claim to be chosen by God, even richer than they already are, off his blood, sweat, and tears, and they could care less if I live or die. And after 10 years of being the best inspector, the highest producer, the most efficient worker, this company sheckled me 6 ways from Jerusalem and gave most of my work to incompetent rookies who work for less money than me. The CEO of this beacon of capitalism, who works so hard to become the owner of the company by banging and marrying the founder's daughter, has a yacht fetish. And he has made it clear 3 yachts isn't enough and he needs a 4th. So the only way to work so hard for that 4th yacht is to have the contractors who make the money for his precious company undercut each other to the point where they can find inspectors to work for less than McDonald's wages. And in the good old US of A, good business is called finding cheaper labor that provides poor quality of work, because maximum profits for executives and owners are more important than quality labor and product. And just in case having my work reduced to earnings resembling what I used to make in high school this year wasn't enough for me to realize I was likely going to be grinding and toiling on this earth till the day I die, the only member of my family who had anything resembling a few bucks that may have got passed down to me had his estate robbed by his fat pig friend, and his death was kept secret from us for over a month so this ex-cop could take off with my uncle's bank account and assets. Now my uncle, who let's face it, was also a scumbag, was a bipolar lunatic who I hadn't spoke to in 7 years. He didn't want his family to see him dying, so he entrusted his fellow crooked cop friend to look after things for him before he passed. I don't care if he planned on giving me a cent, as I didn't want anything from him and I didn't want to deal with him, but there's ample evidence that he was going to give his assets to my siblings. But our evidence meant nothing to the law, because they allowed their scumbag pig friend to get away with the fraud he committed. That will be my first class so you fine folks can learn how real corruption works in real time from a real life perspective, from a real world example. So, to get out of the soul-sucking job I've spent the quarter of my life slaving over, to be with my beautiful wife and son every day, I must do what it takes to find several avenues to earn the almighty dollar. I don't know how long, if ever, it'll take me to earn reasonable money teaching class on social media platforms, but the bell must ring somewhere to get started. Teaching is my calling in life, and it's what I must do. And I'm not going to a classroom to do it. I'll be right here for you fine folks on these platforms that'll likely try to cancel and ban me in a New York minute. But I'll always find a way from now on to teach. Before you come to Professor Tone's class, I want to make it clear that I don't give a damn about people who don't want to listen to anger, to negativity, to the truth about the reality of life for most people on this mud dump we call planet Earth. I'm not here to be positive. If you want to be positive, go get HIV. Professor Tone has two objectives in this lifelong course called Teaching Life. One, showing people how to investigate everything presented to them to the fullest extent possible, like everything they learn is being presented in the court of law. And two, learning how to organize and reverse engineer a world separate from this soul-sucking system that enslaved us, so we can have a shot at something resembling a wholesome life, and our offspring can have a chance at a life worth living. Because right now, in this reality, we aren't living. We're merely existing. I won't pretend to have the answers of life for you. I can't even say I know how to execute any real change in this world. But I believe I had a good lesson plan to point us in the right direction through logic and reason. And through heart and spirit, as corny as that sounds. I hope we can spark more than a blunt together. I'll be blunt with you, and you can be blunt with me. Only together can we make the change we all know deep down needs to be made. No one can tackle this change solo. Let's really think how we can put thought to action and make these changes. Class will be starting soon. Until next time, not even the bell can save you when you're in class with Professor Tone.